The second RTX card to come through the studio is from Zotac, and while it may not look like anything fancy, I've learned never to judge a book by its cover. And in the past, Zotac had managed to cram some outstanding performance into small or unassuming GPU bodies. Let's see how this card stacks up. Ready to dive into custom water cooling but unclear about what parts you might need? Check out Thermaltake's new M360 Plus RGB kit. Featuring a D5 pump res combo, 16mm hard tube, Pacific C Pro fittings, and the best RGB implementation on the market, the M360 Plus fits all mainstream Intel and AMD sockets and is fully expandable as your system evolves. Check out the link in the video description to learn more. Of the three 2080 variants that Zotac currently offers, this is the mid-range card, the Zotac Gaming GeForce RTX 2080 Twin Fan. Not the most inspiring of names, but let's not harp on that. Their base model uses a blower cooler design and is the one that is at least most likely to one day be priced at NVIDIA's MSRP. This twin fan version is the next step up and offers several improvements in cooling, performance, and appearance, although their top-end amp card is still king of the hill in all three. As with alt RTX 2080 cards, many of the specs across the board will remain exactly the same. You still get 2944 CUDA cores, 8 gigs of GDDR6 memory with a 448 gigabits per second memory bandwidth, a base clock of 1515 MHz, and support for a litany of RTX features that we can't yet use, test, or even see. NVIDIA's reference spec for the 2080 has the base clock at 1515 MHz with a boost clock of 1710, while their own factory overclocked Founders Edition version boosts to 1800 MHz out of the box. The Zotac card kind of splits the difference, as we see a mild factory OC applied and a boost rating of 1770 MHz, which should provide a measurable performance bump over reference, but might not get us quite up to FE performance. The design of the Zotac Twin Fan card features, and you'd probably have never guessed this, but two fans. And they're both 90mm across and don't nearly have the blade density that the FE fans do. However, we'll see shortly that blade density doesn't necessarily translate to cooling capacity. To be honest, this is a really basic looking plastic shroud, and the dimensions line up almost exactly with the FE card all around. After all, this is a reference PCB design. However, I do generally like to see sturdier coolers on cards that ultimately cost over $800 US. The backplate is again a fairly basic but unoffensive flat black design with color neutral Zotac logos that unfortunately face the wrong direction when the card is installed, meaning that you would have to read them upside down in a traditional horizontal GPU orientation. The side of the card again uses color neutral gray RTX logo font and has a small RGB controllable Zotac logo. Power configuration is the exact same as on the FE card with a 6+8 pin design. Diving into some performance metrics, let's take a look at how the Zotac 2080 compares to the FE model as well as the 1080 Ti and the 1080 Founders. As you'll note, performance didn't vary much at all between the Founders card and the Zotac partner model. In fact, most of the test results were within normal test variants, despite the FE card having an edge in clock speed. This even managed to beat out the FE card in some tests. But again, the results are so close that we're basically talking negligible differences between the two. What we can look at is cooling and noise during those tests. With both cards running in stock configuration and fan speed set to ramp to 40% as needed, the Zotac card was measurably louder than the FE, and even though 47 versus 51 decibels at load doesn't seem like a huge amount, it came down to me not even really being able to hear the Founders card, while the Zotac model was definitely audible. The fans used here do not seem to be quite as high quality as the one Nvidia is using. On the other hand though, operating temps went in the other direction, as both idle and load temps saw a small advantage for the AIB graphics card. This likely has everything to do with the slightly more open design of the shroud, allowing more air to pass over the cooling fins. I was curious to see if the slightly lower temps would allow a better, more consistent overclock. So I fired up EVGA's new Precision X1 tool and decided to take the OC scanner for a spin. EVGA software recommended a 126 MHz core overclock on the Zotac card and a plus 124 on the FE. I then set out to apply my own manual overclock and got to plus 130 on the Zotac card, only 4 more megahertz, a surprisingly accurate job. However, when I put the Founders card back on the bench, my manual overclock pushed all the way to plus 180 on the core before running into stability problems. That's a huge leap over what the software was recommending. I was able to hit both cards with a plus 1000 megahertz memory offset as well, leading to the following numbers. Note that both cards are effectively power limited at this point, as the most I can tweak is a 12% bump in power. Gamers Nexus has some excellent testing on this front, showing how over-engineered the PCBs of these RTX cards are and how much they could actually benefit from something like a shunt mod or a BIOS that allowed for increased power limits. So perhaps the chips used in the Nvidia FE cards are binned to allow for better overclocking, and I would imagine enthusiasts looking to get in on a new generation of GPU that costs this much will be looking to apply some sort of an overclock to extract maximum value. If that's the case, then the Founders cards do certainly look better than a model like the Zotac Gaming Twin Fan. However, performance differences are still extremely marginal, even if they are significant in a mathematical sense, and it may very well come down to cost and availability. Here lies the problem. Right now, I can't find this card for sale anywhere in the United States. It's not on Newegg, it's not on Amazon, it's not at B&H, so I'm not sure where I can recommend that you buy it. It's entirely possible that the retail channels are still receiving new stock of these cards and it'll be listed very soon. But I can't very well recommend that you buy something that nobody is selling. If you're interested in the Zotac Gaming RTX 2080 Twin Fan card, I'd recommend keeping an eye on PC Part Picker or similar, where you can see when it becomes available at retailers. So are you guys interested in the Zotac 2080? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, don't forget to get subscribed to the channel for more RTX content and hopefully soon some non-RTX content. As always guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.